put together, and I'm not going to shy away from the fact that this is me promoting a 6-week business course to personal trainers that need that kind of support. My thought process was that your level 2 and your level 3, as great as those qualifications are to give you a base level of knowledge to get into the industry, they don't set you up for a self-employed role, which is typically what 80% of the PT roles are out there. But today's session really was about building your brand, and I thought that at this right now, where potentially a lot of us are in lockdown, we can't. But yes, we can still do some one-to-one outside. But if you're brand new, let's say you started your PT role in March last year, then you haven't really had a chance to build a client base yet, and it's tough. So have you got time now to start to think about putting a real solid plan together, so that when we do come out of this, you're going to hit the ground running? You're ready to go. Yeah, and also, I think there's my thoughts are that outside of this, there will be absolutely a business need in terms of PT for this hybrid model. And when I say hybrid, hybrid to me is a combination of online PT and face-to-face PT. Yeah. And I don't know many courses right now that are supporting people with online. A lot we talked about in our last call, that a lot of trainers are maybe a bit nervous about the cost of setting things up. So I thought, who better to support me with branding than yourself? You had a strong marketing background. You've always been really successful. If people want to know a little bit more about you, then check out the last podcast. Rather than me spending another 20 minutes introducing you. But look, let me cut into this. So building your brand. If you were to start from scratch, and arguably you kind of have, because you moved location again, haven't you? Recently. So if you had to build your brand from scratch, what would be the things that you would potentially think about while you were sort of doing that? What would be your mission statement? Would you have one? Would you have a brand promise? We just talk about messaging. How would you communicate? Would you pick a niche? I know I've thrown a load of questions at you, so shut up. What do you think? What would you do? Well, I think the key thing that I'd say to people, we've been through it, we've done all this. We've probably done it a couple of times over. So what people should be sort of taking home now is that take the experience from other people and listen to them. They know there's a lot of value out there. So it's the people with the expertise, they've gone through it. They've gone through it 3 or 4 times, They've whittled down these things now. So when we're saying these things, this isn't just an ideology or an idea that I've sort of come up with off the top of my head. This is a tried and tested and a tried and failed sort of plan. Don't think that everything I've touched has turned to gold, and I'm sure for you and many people out there will back us up on that. In this industry, it changes a lot, it moves, it's a fast-paced industry, so there's a lot of change. So we've been there, we've tried it, we've failed it, we've tried it, it's worked, and we take those little bits and we take them and we move on. But I think the most important thing that we start with, if you are brand new, you've just come out your training, and you are about to embark on a PT career, or if you're coming back into a PT career after maybe a break, the most important thing for you is who you are. So when we talk about brand an awful lot, and I think because of social media and the way we live these days, brand is a word that's battered around a lot. But before we get to your business brand, I think you need to decide what you are, what's your speciality, what got you into fitness in the first place. For me, it was losing a lot of weight. I'd put a lot of weight on, and then I lost the weight again, got back into my fitness, my CrossFit, enjoyed that side of stuff, really, really enjoyed that. And so that's why I got back into it. So then when I went back into the fitness game, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, well, who am I going to relate to most? Well, I'm going to relate to people on a weight loss journey. Don't get me wrong, over the years, I've done the bulking up, I've done the big arms and the big shoulders and all the chest press, and I've done the heavy lifting and that, but that wasn't really me. It wasn't something I enjoyed. It wasn't something I was big into. I get it, I understand it, I know why a lot of people really enjoy that, but for me, that isn't my thing. My thing is physical fitness and mental fitness and weight management. So therefore, if I was looking for where I'm going to be before I start a brand,
I've got to say, who am I looking to help? Who's my, first identify your clientele, who am I sort of looking for? So for me, my demographics, if you looked at them now, are women 25 to 60. Mm-hmm. And then in between that, I've got men, but the men tend to be 35 plus. I don't get many men under 35. I've got a couple who there who I've worked with quite a while now, but they're sort of specific. The rest of them tend to be that they have a very specific goal where they want to be, and they come to me for a very specific reason because I can give them that.
So then would you say, sorry to cut in, but would you say, I mean, when, I mean, even 5 years ago, yeah. you work in a commercial gym, you had to be all things to all people. You wanted to cast a wide net because your membership base was your marketplace. Yeah. Nowadays, it's more about your niche, and certainly when you think about an online business, it's about that speciality. Would you agree?
Yeah, a million %. And even going back to my times in commercial gyms, if I was doing that again and I was going back there again, yeah, obviously it is a numbers game, but it's a business. We want to get those customers in. But what I would say, and the one bit of advice I would give is don't take a client on because necessarily there's a pay packet with it. Make sure that client is right for you as much as you are right for that client. Yeah. Mm. It's an important thing. Spend that time getting to know. Don't just jump in. Someone comes in, says, I want PT. Don't always just jump in and go, yeah, I'll take it. It's business. Have a look. Check, make sure that those goals that they're looking for fit within what you want to do, how you're going to work. Make sure that your personalities are good, because they don't always. I've had PT clients in the past and I've took them on and it hasn't always worked. So that'd be my first thing. If you're in that commercial gym, we are a numbers game. We want to get our clients in, but don't sacrifice what you're about just for churning those numbers over. Make sure that they're the right fit. The reality is, in any commercial gym, there's probably 5 or 6 PTs minimum. That person might be a better fit with. Don't be scared to open up and work as a team. Pass that person over if someone else is better suited. I know it's money and I know we're in the business, but if we all work like that, and then that guy, they might be into strength training and that's what that person wants. And then they might get somebody coming to them who's more suited to you. And you want the clients you can work best with, because that's going to be the long game. There's no point getting a client who comes to you for a month. You might get a month out of it. And at the end of that month, they're like, this hasn't worked for me, it hasn't worked for you. And then you lose the business anyway. Mm-hmm. You want a long-term plan. Back to the online question, which you asked, which is not just online, but in this sort of era that we're living in now, have your niche. It's really, really important. Own what you are, accept what you can do, what you are good at, what your specialty. Listen, if you are a jack of all trades, fantastic. But if you've got a specialty, go on it, work on it. You know, if it is weight management, fantastic. If it's strength training, fantastic. If you're going to work with someone developing something very particular, so it might be someone who is an athlete who wants to work in a particular, all of these different things. There's angles for you to go in, but you want to be going in on your angle where your specialty is, where you can give that customer, that client, 100% the best treatment that they can get. You can give them everything that they need. And you're not going to be letting them down. You're not going to be letting themselves down. So I think that's important. Find your niche, acknowledge what your niche is, and work on that, build on that, and don't allow the money and the dollar sign. And also quite an important point, don't allow anyone else who's in the industry to take advice. That's great, but if you're working in a gym, you're working in a commercial gym, sometimes it's about the dollars. They want to see the money coming through the till. Don't sacrifice who you are and what you're about always just for the dollars. Be honest about what you are. Be truthful to what you are as a trainer or a coach.
So what I've taken from what you're saying initially is that before you start even thinking about branding or marketing or any of that, you've got to work out who our market is, and importantly who you are, who you want to train, and I suppose your story. Because your story that you're going to be telling people via any messaging, via your logo, via anything that we do from here. So once you've worked all that out, the next stage must be to start to think about what does that look like, even as far as what your logo looks like. Has to be part of your of that market that you're trying to target. So, for example, if your logo looked a very dark Gothic style logo with a dumbbell and it looks a bit hardcore, you're not going to attract you know, who I used to call her Mary, you know, the 35-year-old to 45-year-old overweight lady that wants to lose weight. She's not going to be attracted to that logo. So
exactly.
that whole thing follows on down the line, right?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. That's why I think you've got to find that. You've got to find what your niche is. You've got to find who you are as a trainer and a coach, because everything that goes forward from that point will be built on those foundations. Like you say, you know, your logos, even down to people don't realize, but the colors that you use, you know, don't just say, I'm going to use, like, for instance, my branding is a blue and a pink. It's a light blue and a pink. And listen, I went over that. I spent quite a bit of time making that decision, and then finding the right type of blue and the right type of pink. That sounds like it's quite, but there's that depth that you've got to go into, because it's how people respond when they're scrolling through things. People nowadays are doing this a lot of scrolling or a lot of running through things. Whatever you're doing needs to stand out, and it needs to send the message to them straight away. In that first moment that they look and they see that, they have to go, what's that? And stop. And it's got to get them, and it's got to appeal to them. So all of those things you've got to take into account. Like I say, you bang on with that idea of, again, if I had a big black lightning rod with a dumbbell, or, you know, or a bicep curl on it, you know, that type of thing says to whoever's looking at me, this man does strength training, and he probably will appeal to lads and girls 18 plus who have already done a little bit of weight and now want to take it on to the next sort of level. Yeah, that's what it's saying. But like you say, with mine, I don't, for instance, my logos for classes is a heart with the pulse through it, so people know that it's about cardio and that sort of thing. And then I'm not thinking, I will use things like scales, apples, and a tape measure to let people know about the nutrition side of stuff. And I'll put that there. And in certain classes, I will put the weights there.
It might be old school to use a tape measure or an apple, but actually it's a consistent message that the average client recognizes and understands. Like you say, when they're scrolling through, they see the apple, it must be a fitness post, it must be healthy. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to stop.
Exactly. It's visual and it's simple. And I think that's the big thing. It's simple. Know what your message is and get out simple. I'm going to work with you on your fitness, and I'm going to work with you on your nutrition. They're going to be our two key things. And that's my message. That's what's in my branding. It's about the fitness and it's about your nutrition. And we push heavily on that. But it's light colors. It's very open. Even down to the fonts that we use are very clear. The wording that we use is very clear. And it's all very specific so that people can see it. They get the simple message. Once they get the simple message, then they go, okay, this person might be for me. Then they're going to open up the conversation with me. They're more likely to then have, and then once we have that conversation as a client, which is the really, really important thing, that's when you can then tell them more in depth about how you're going to do it, how it's going to work, the process itself. You don't need to tell all that straight away. That's not what it's about. You need to know what that is, but you haven't got to disclose that at that first thing. I think when we're looking at our branding and you know, names again, like if you look on Instagram or Facebook these days, you will see everyone's. So my sort of tag on Instagram, which I probably should change because it doesn't really apply to me anymore, is Danny Noble PT. I do a lot more than just PT in these days. I do a lot of coaching and other sorts of consultancy stuff as well with people. And so that sums up for what I do for that PT, for that Instagram, that's there. But you'll see things like train with Danny, or get fit with Danny, or shred with Danny, and those sorts of things. And that's important as well. What you call yourself on your Instagram and your Facebook, they're going to be important things. You need to, you know, have that conversation. And sometimes it's nice to bat ideas to people. You know, I mean, I certainly don't just go in with, right, this is my colors, this is the name, this is the brand. I'll have a lot of options and I'll go through and then I'll work with people. I've got a lot of people who I trust in the industry, and I'll work with them and I'll say to people, what do you think of this? How do you think this looks? And that feedback's really, really important, because you wouldn't do it anywhere else. You wouldn't just run into something, go, right, I'm right on everything here, this is going to be it. You need that test, and you need to sort of get that feedback off people.
That's actually, there's a couple of really good points there that you made. That feedback piece is really important, because as a personal trainer or fitness business owner, if you like, you typically are a one-man, one-woman show.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than spending days and days on something that you think is a particularly great marketing message, sending out, and then it's got a spelling mistake in it, and you looked at it that many times that you just got blind to it. So it's really important that you get feedback, because even something as simple as getting your spelling right makes a massive difference, because it sends the wrong message. And the other people I think that I've taken from what you just said, well, you tell me, how important do you think consistency is in terms of your marketing message and branding?
Oh, absolutely. So again, it goes back, we'll keep going back to that first bit. You've got to know what you are and what you're going for from the start, because the reason that's so important is that's your base. Once we're there, everything that goes forward will be so much easier. If you create that moving forward, then your branding becomes easier, because it's easier to make that design when you know what it is that you're actually selling and what you're putting forward. And consistency in terms of two things. One, visual consistency is really important. These days, we rely a lot on social media and images and videos, and people are scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So that consistency of your brand colors and your brand message and your image, that consistency is how people get to know you. They see the colors, they see the brand, they see you as a person. Videos, I'll come on to it a little bit, but they see that. And then what we're doing with that is building a trust. And that's what's so important. You wouldn't just, you wouldn't now just pop yourself onto Facebook or Instagram, see a thing with someone and just go, right, I'm going with them. Bring them up. Hi, yeah, I'd like to book in. I'm going to do this now. That doesn't happen yet. What you want to do is you want to see a consistent message. You want to see something that's coming through that resonates with you continually. So maybe over a series of, people aren't just going to come in and that's it, they're going. It might be 4 or 5 weeks. It might be 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
They might have an idea in their heads in January now, be like, I need to do something about it, but I'm homeschooling and I've got work at home and COVID's happening. So maybe now isn't the right time. But in 6 months' time, when things have calmed down, the kids are back at school or whatever, and things have eased up, they might be ready to go for it. Now, if over that 6 months, they've continually seen your message and your branding coming through, they're going to go, do you know what? I like that. And you're going to be the person, you're going to be the go-to that they go to, because you've related to them and you've kept that message consistent. That's your branding side of consistency. You as a person, if you're honest, the consistency will come naturally. If you try to create something that you're not, if you try to create a fake brand or a fake sort of message of who you are, you will come off. You will come offline, because it's not really true to who you are. And that's the danger. When you are true to yourself, you can stick with it. You're going to have moments of doubt. There's going to be times where you're sitting there and you've had no emails and no messages or no phone calls, and the business isn't coming in. You're going to go, am I giving the wrong message? Am I doing the... Listen, you can't be giving the wrong... If that's who you are, that's your message. That's what you're going for. Stick with it. Stick with that consistency, because if you start jumping over there, those people who've been maybe waiting and looking at you for the last couple of months are going to go, oh, what's he doing now? What's that? Why? Oh no, that's not for me anymore. And those people over there are going to go, well, hang on a minute. I saw him last week. He was going on about weight loss. Now he's going on about eating steak and doing push-ups. and that's why you've got to be consistent, because don't give your customers mixed messages. It's a long game. It doesn't happen just because they see one image. So that consistency with your branding and also with your personal message of who you are, doesn't mean you can't change over time. As you progress as a PT, 2 years down the line, you might find that you become more interested in something else. It might be agility or flexibility, or you might add more things to your belt, group exercise, that sort of thing. That you can add on to whoever you are as you go. They will become add-ons. They won't become a different direction. So don't allow yourself to, don't allow the fear, don't allow the anxiety to creep in. And listen, we all have it. Doesn't matter where you've been in this game, 10 minutes or 10 years, we all have that anxiety of, am I doing the right thing? And again, I go back to it. That's why it's good to have people around you who you trust their judgment, who you trust their understanding. So you can say to them, guys, I'm having a bit of a wobble here. This is what I've done. What do you think? And they will give you their honest opinions. And that for me is building up a trust network is essential, to be able to say to people around you, what do you think? And they can give you that honest, professional, detailed feedback that then you go, thank you.
You 100%. The other side of things is it's a process, and if you can learn to enjoy the process as much as the results, then you've got it. But enjoy the, let's talk about content, for example. So, in terms of consistency with your content, how often is it possible to put out too much content?
I think so. Yeah, I look at some of the trainers and some of the coaches. I look at some of the clubs, and even some of the big clubs out there as well are guilty of it. And sometimes they think that more works. And for me, I don't think that posting an awful lot always is bad. But if what you're posting isn't high quality and you're posting just for the sake of posting, and it's quantity over quality, then you've got an issue, because people will look at it and be like, well, that's no use to me. So the next time something comes up, the next one could be an absolute winner. You could put out the best content that anyone's ever written in the entire fitness industry. But if your 5 posts before that were useless and pointless, then someone's just going to go, yeah, they just post. No. And they're going to go past it and your message gets lost.
Or worse, it's the same post that just keeps getting, it's often don't even get rehashed. It's exactly the same post that was posted a week ago. We're conscious that it only lasts maybe 48 hours at best. We'll just post it again next week, next week. It effectively becomes that poster that's on the gym floor that people just walk past.
Exactly.
So, what's your opinion? I've got my own, but I'm interested in yours today. What's your opinion on volume of content? What would you say? Would you say 1 a day? Would you say 2 a day? Would you say 5 a day?
I try to vary it so it's not constant, and across different
platforms,
sorts of social media. On the different platforms, I have very different sort of things. Like I know for instance, Instagram, once a day, great on your actual posts. If you look at the actual how often people look at posts and how much of an impact they have, it's not that great if it's not backed up by a story. So now what you can do is you post something on Instagram and then you link it in a story. So you go into your story, you go, come and read me post, direct them then to the post, because then you get a little bit more oomph in your post. You can put a little bit more depth into it. On Instagram stories, some days I'll post 10 posts, because it might be a load of success stories. It might be a load of big calorie burns in one of my classes or stuff like that. People had a great day. They've all shared stuff. I reshare them then, because my clients like to see their successes being shared on social media. So on stories, I think it's unlimited. Not to the point whereby, it's boring, but with stories, you're almost on unlimited. Posts a little bit different. Spend a little bit of time, plan your posts. I use some planning software. I have a planning meeting on a Saturday evening about 6 o'clock, and I plan not the next week, the week after. So I'm always 2 weeks always running, but I plan that week. So we've got 7 days, and I plan content. I plan videos. What that means as well is it means I can then do those videos on the Sunday. I can spend the day doing it, and then I can schedule them to go in the week after next. So I know that all my content is loaded.
It becomes a full-time job if you're literally waking up every morning thinking, what am I going to post today? You need a content plan, and then you need some software to schedule it so that it doesn't just take over your life.
1,000,000%. Because otherwise, what happens there, Carl, if you don't plan this ahead and you don't have an idea of where your content is, you wake up on a Wednesday morning, you're like, oh, I've got to post something. So then you post bad. You post poor content. It's a rush job. It's a hatchet job, and you're doing yourself no favors. You'd be better not posting, because not posting does a lot less damage than a bad post. So you're right. The planning, the sitting down, making sure that what you're doing is consistent again with your message. And not only that, it helps with everything. When you're always planning ahead and you're looking, then it gives you a little bit of time to research, make sure you're saying the right things, make sure what you're putting out there is right. And honestly, you stand out a lot better. And I know from, I'm a geek when it comes to stuff like this. So I use the analytics and the stats an awful lot. So I use that in the feedback. And I know a good post before it's even gone out. I know when I'm going to get a post that's going to have big interaction. There's certain things, there's certain tricks that you do. You put them in and you get that interaction. But yeah, for me, that's so important, the planning and doing it. But yeah, different platforms, I think, have different rules. And depending on who you are, will depend on that as well, what message you're trying to get out. Facebook, it isn't a one size fits all. Your demographics on Instagram and your demographics on Facebook are going to be two very different people. So don't do that. There's that, it's an option, you can do it.
Yeah,
share Instagram to Facebook.
Yeah, it's absolutely two different audiences.
Certain things you can, certain things will work across both platforms, certain messages across it, opening times, or contact details and general stuff like that's fantastic. But you've got to remember your demographics on those two sites are very different people. So you're aiming at two different people. Not that message isn't always going to work across both, and the visuals aren't going to work on what you're saying. So don't just try and blanket social media with one message. Understand your demographics, understand your audience, and make sure that you're aiming towards that audience. A second one that I would say very, very quickly, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but on Facebook, understand that Facebook has a lot of levels. So you'll have who you are as a profile, then you might set yourself up as a page, as a business. And then inside that page, you might have a series of groups for different things. These are really important things. You need to learn what all that is. You need to understand the sort of hierarchy and all the sorts of different groups and things that you can do within Facebook. And again, then that will also, your content will be very, very different from what you post on a page to what you post inside a group. And that comes down, I don't know how much you want to go into it, but on when you're trying to identify with a client to get them to come with you, there's stages that you have to go through. Like we were saying before, they don't just see an advert and all of a sudden they're going to ring you and buy with you. There's stages in the process that you have to go through from the top to the bottom to get that sale. For them to come on board with you, it's not just instant. There's stages that you have to work through, and they're very, very specific. And you have to do it. You have to do that work, and that will be based on your pages. Will be a very particular message, and then it'll filter down and filter down and filter down. That's what we do to sort of to work it. And that's a really important part of marketing, understanding that it's not just pictures and images and videos.
I think that's been really useful, mate. I think you're right. I mean, just listening to you talk, and this is the stuff that is not in your level 2 or your level 3. Hence I think the need and the requirement for a course, a package like this, to give people those kind of skills so that you become successful. Because as I say, the level 2, the level 3, great entry level qualifications, but you need to know who you are as a brand. You need lots of other things before you hit the ground running. And I suppose now is an ideal time to maybe go back to square one, have a look at all these things, take some of the advice that you've shared today, Danny, and start to put these things together. So, Danny, I really appreciate your time again, mate.
Always good to chat.